Coming up is part 1 of the course from makethattrack.com. As a member of our website, you get access to all the links, presets, samples and loops, and also project files, including MIDI, for all the tutorials on the site. Enjoy this free tutorial and be sure to check us out at makethattrack.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to part 1 of our Ableton Electro House tutorial. In this video we're going to be setting up our project and we're going to make just a simple drum kit. So to start off with, let's just make sure that our project is set up. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have the right tempo. By default, Ableton is going to be at 128 and this is the tempo that we're going to be working with. So we don't really need to change this, but just so that you know how, or if your Ableton for some reason opens up with a different tempo, you can just change this by clicking and dragging upwards or downwards. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this back to 128. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a custom folder that we can use in order to pull samples from and MIDI and other presets for us to use within our project. So in order to do this, we're just going to go over to the left here and click on this Add Folder button. And it's going to pop up this box here where we can navigate to the folder that we want to use. So we're just going to navigate to our Electro House folder here. And you can navigate to whatever folder you want to put your samples in. I'm just going to go to Assets here, which has our MIDI, our presets, and our samples. And I'm just going to click on that and then hit OK. And then we'll see it pop up over here over on the left. And now I can click on that and we can access everything within the browser. So that's just an easy way to streamline all your samples and your MIDI and everything so that you can use it within the project. Okay, now that that's set up, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a drum kit. So part 1, we're just going to create a very simple drum kit, and this isn't going to take us very much time at all. And then in the next videos, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on everything else that isn't drums. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a new MIDI track. So I have a bunch of tracks here, which are all the tracks we're going to be using later on in the project. But in order to get a drum rack in here, which is what we're going to use to make our drum kit, we're going to right click over here on the right, and we're going to choose Insert MIDI Track. Okay, so it's going to pop up a new MIDI here, and it's just blank, and we can press Control or Command and R, or just right click and choose Rename if we want to rename it. We can call that drum rack, or whatever you want. Okay, now to get a drum rack in here, we're going to go over to the left, over to Instruments, and then we're going to select Drum Rack and just drag it over onto the track. Then it's going to pop up Drum Rack down here, and what this is a device that we can drag and drop different audio samples into, which will then allow us to either play the samples with a MIDI keyboard, or we can use a MIDI clip or a score in order to create a drum pattern. So right now these are all blank. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our assets and our samples folder that we've set up. We're going to go into drums. We're just going to drag each of these on here. So I'm going to drag kick onto C1 there, and you'll see it pops up, and now the pad is named kick. I'm going to drag snare, clap, and we have an open hat. All right, now I can press play, the play button on either of these pads in order to play the sound. Or I can press the corresponding note on my MIDI keyboard in order to play these as well. So kick was tied to the note C1, so if I press C1 on my keyboard, it would play that note. And each of these pads is assigned to a different note. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a MIDI clip and then write in a drum pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this drum rack because I have one already set up with the same samples in here. And in order to create a MIDI clip here, I'm just going to highlight this area here. And I'm going to right click and choose Insert MIDI Clip. And then our clip will pop up right here in our selection. And we're just going to double click on this. And it's going to bring us into the MIDI clip view. So on the left here, we can see a short piano that has all 4 of our samples tied to a different note here. So if I want to start writing a note, all I have to do is double click in order to create a note. So let's make a kick here. And I can double click again, or I can hold Control or Command and click and drag in order to copy. Okay, so now we should have a kick pattern. Okay, and now that that's written in, I can click on the side of the clip here and drag it out in order to loop the clip. Okay, so we're just going to have pretty much the most basic pattern possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all these kicks. Then we're just going to hold Control or Command and we're going to drag upwards to get our snare in here. We're going to do the same for our clap. And the same for our hi-hat here. Okay, so now that we have our pattern written in, we can double click on the drum rack track here in order to gain access to our device view again. And so now what we can do is we can click on these pads here and we can fine tune some of the controls. So for example, if I wanted to make our clap a little bit quieter, what I can do is click on it, and then we have all these options over here that pertain to just the clap sound. And I can go over on the right here and adjust the volume. So let's just make it a little bit quieter, clicking and dragging that downwards. And then maybe make our snare a little bit louder. We also have a pan control to the left of that, which I will leave alone for now. Another thing we can do is we can change the length of any of our clips here. So if I wanted to have a shorter hi-hat, I can click and drag on this end arrow here and change the length of the audio sample that's on the pad. I'm just going to turn up the volume for this so you can hear that a little better. Okay, but I'm just going to leave that alone for now. Okay, and that's pretty much going to wrap it up for our drums here. We're just going to keep things really basic for our electro house song. In the next video, we're going to be setting up our main instruments for the track.
We hope you've enjoyed part 1 of this course. To continue, please go to the website and select a membership to suit your needs. Welcome to MakeThatTrack.com. At Make That Track, we provide everything you need to make your favourite style of music from start to finish. Our Getting Started series will show a complete beginner where to start and what they need to do to start making music out of the box. Once the basics are grasped, you can learn how to make the genre of your choice with everything that you need in the process. Want to know how to make that elusive sound from your favourite producer's tracks? Check out our How to Make That Sound tutorials. We take the guesswork out and show you exactly what you need to do to get that sound within a few simple steps. With tips on arrangement, mixing, mastering and effects, you'll have everything you need to prepare your tracks to send to a record label and to play in the clubs. Get everything you need to make the music you love today.